And we can have Ginny seated for Steve, we'll say. Please, that would be great. And then I'd like to hear a motion to change the order of the agenda to planning workshop, because we have special guests here for that, for item 8.
So moved. Second.
Got that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, the large topic on our agenda this evening is to go over plans for our September forum, our September 23 forum. I hope everyone who's in the audience is here for that, because that will be largely what we are speaking about. And we have a couple honored guests, our longtime planning consultant, Tom McGowan. Thank you, Tom, and also Jocelyn Ayers, who's part of the Northwest Hills Council of Governments. And Jocelyn is here especially to give a relatively brief presentation regarding the state's, or our whole region's plan of conservation and development. And all of us were emailed the draft plan a few weeks ago, and we were also sent a document which would ask for our approval of this plan by September 15th. So we don't have to embark on that this evening, but we could have some discussion of that. So having said that, I'd like to hand the floor over to Jocelyn.
Sure. You want to start with this brief thing about the regional plan, and then you can...
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I don't know how many of you got a chance to look at it, but one of my goals with the regional plan this time was to make it short.
You succeeded.
And easy to read, so it's this thin, which I'm proud of. And it really, what I heard, and this is, I'm sure that you hear this here too, I've heard it from all of my towns, is that one of the core critical issues in our region is attracting and retaining young people. And so what I did really was, instead of having the traditional, separating housing from economic development, from transportation, thinking about what we need to do as a region to attract and retain young people in general, and then breaking that down into what housing things do we need to do, how do we create jobs, how do we create the kinds of livable town centers that folks want to live in. So anyway, that's sort of an overview of some of the focus of the plan, and then under the overall objectives, there's very specific strategies about how we can do those things and who would take them on. So when you get a chance to take a look at it, what we're interested in. You know, our 21 municipalities are our partners, our core partners in implementing this plan, because nothing can happen that doesn't happen on the ground in one of our towns. So we really want our towns to be on board with the overall goals and strategies that are in here. So if there's something that's not in here that's critical, we'd like to hear about it. Or if there's something in here that you don't think should be in here, we'd like to hear about it. And then to just briefly, I know a lot of, this is true of a lot of plans, but there's always a lot of focus on the maps. And there are there are two kinds of policy maps in the plan. There's a growth policy map, which really talks about areas basically that already have existing infrastructure of some kind. You know, in the towns with water and sewer, it's the places with water and sewer. And in the towns that don't have water and sewer, it's the traditional village centers that have some kind of infrastructure there already, that define them as rural, you know, community centers. So that's our growth policy map. And then we have two different conservation policy maps. One that has core forests and significant farmland, and the other one that has water resources on it that we want to be sure to protect. But just to be clear, they're policy maps.
What does that mean?
So what it really means is the only way that those maps are really going to be used is, and I think I described this to you guys before, if you come to me with a referral for, you decided to create a new industrial zone in Cornwall, and you stick it right in the middle of your town center area, or you put it right in the middle of a core forest. When I write you back my referral response, I'll say that is not consistent with the regional plan. That's advisory to you, and you can take it under advisement. If Gordon asked me for support for a grant application for new sidewalks in the town center, I'll be able to set in the area that's, you know, a growth area in Cornwall. I would, you know, easily be able to write a support letter saying that this grant application is consistent with the regional plan. So that's really how it gets used. And I do want to point out that we based our growth policy map on the state growth policy map. And right now, the state is taking comments on their map. So how you define if you don't like the way that your village center area is defined, now is the time to make a comment about that. And I'll make sure you get the state, that they're preparing a way for you guys, for towns to submit comments online. And I think they'd have to go through your chief elected official, but I'll make sure that you get CC'd on that. Because basically what we're just gonna, our plan has to be consistent with the state plan. So, and it just so happens that they're doing their plan at the same time we are. So if you don't like the growth policy map, for example, then we should talk about that and get comments to the state, and those will be also reflected in our regional plan. But I wouldn't get too upset about it, or too, like, in terms of how it's used. It's not, basically, if there's anything inconsistent with either, for the state's maps, if there's anything ever inconsistent with their mapping and some project the town of Cornwall might apply for, what they look to is your local plan of conservation development. So this is a good segue into your local plan of conservation development, because basically what the state has been saying in their public workshops about the new state plan is it really ramps up the importance of the local plan, because if there's ever any doubt in their minds about the consistency between something the town of Cornwall wants money for from the state, or something a state agency wants to do in Cornwall, and what their state policy map says. They're gonna look at your town plan for guidance. And I can give you an example if you are curious, but they gave us an example of, wanting to extend a water line to an ag, like a place where they have an ag fair. And that wasn't consistent with, because it was rural, so it wasn't consistent with the state plan. So they looked at the region, at the local plan of conservation development, and that plan said that it wanted to promote activities at the fairgrounds. So anyway, so they have emphasized the importance of what's in your local plan, and also that your 10-year plan, it's not like you can't ever, it's not carved in stone. Once you adopt it, it might feel like that, and it might feel like it's difficult to change it, but you can change it at any time. If you decided you wanted to extend a water main to your, whatever, and that was an important project for the town, the town wanted to apply for funding for it, you could make that change in your town plan.
Yeah, that's been emphasized by our planner Tom too.
Yeah.
It's helpful. So, yeah, I guess, I emailed, you and I had a little back and forth about the plan, and I think first of all, it's a great plan, and I think it's great timing for us that you're a little bit ahead of us on this, because we'll be able to use some of the mapping and work that has been accomplished. I'm hoping in our plan.
And I think I sent you also all the data that we collect. This is the list of all the data we collected for our regional plan, but it's all broken down by town. So if and when you go to update any of the data in your local plan, you can use all of this. You won't have to go find it.
I went to your website. I couldn't figure out how to get these sheets that you've enumerated there.
Okay.
But I will be able to find them on your website,
You
correct?
should be able to. They're under the Regional Plan of Conservation Development page. And if you scroll down, it basically says, like, click here for the Excel spreadsheets, or
Okay.
they're in 3
I
different.
dismissed that. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, they're in 3 different formats. There's a PowerPoint, like, summary, there's a PDF kind of overview, and then there's the actual Excel spreadsheets with all the raw data in there. But if you have any trouble at all, just call me or email me, and I'll just send you.
And this draft plan, is that available to the general public?
Yeah.
On the website also?
Yep. We will be having a public hearing on the regional plan in September.
So the sustainable growth policy map, do you have any printouts of the plan
I do.
on you?
I didn't bring a big version of that,
That's okay. But if you go to page, and anyone who has a device who can do it, the map is on page 16. And yeah, it's small here, so you can't see. But if you pull it up on a computer, because it's a nice PDF, it's infinitely expandable, and it shows to me as though the largest village center that would be, well, first of all, to back up, in the village growth areas in the regional plan, it says these areas were determined locally and represent the traditional village centers of our rural towns. In most cases, they are not served by public water and or sewer. Investments in these areas that would be consistent with the regional plan include infill housing, sidewalks, bikeways, and, quote, Main Street improvements. Any action or investment would take into consideration ways to strengthen or improve the traditional village character of these areas. So in Cornwall's map, the largest commercial area that is shown is where the school is and firehouse. And then two village areas that are shown, which are about half as big as that, are Cornwall Village and West Cornwall. And Cornwall Bridge, I don't think is shown at all. So
Really?
it seems to me some substantial adjustments ought to occur there.
I know that Karen, and I don't know if you remember back when the state did the plan, they do plans every 5 years, so it was 5
Yeah.
years ago. I think you
So
were,
I was here, and the way I remember it being phrased to us is it hardly matters, so how we do, but isn't important.
oh,
And also, there was a big hurry. It was given to us at a one meeting, and we were asked to say, well, basically, it doesn't matter, so that's okay.
okay. But you have, I think you have till November to make comments for the state plan. And I will make sure that you get the instructions, which
Yeah.
again, I think have to go through the chief elected official about how you submit comments.
It wasn't a decision of planning and zoning to how those areas were selected.
Mm.
So this is our first opportunity to weigh in.
Okay.
So I guess I would encourage all of us to go home and open it up to page 16 and then enlarge it so you can see it all. And it's only a glitch as regards Cornwall, because all the other towns, as far as I can see, as well as I know the other towns, it seems, yep, that's where I would expect it to be, in Warren and Salisbury and Goshen. Cornwall just isn't. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
So we need to revamp our village growth area lines.
In this
In
map.
that map.
Yeah.
The
It won't be hard to do
state
because
map.
I don't know how that happened, but if they just represent it according to where our commercial districts are, they will
Okay.
reflect our village centers.
Okay.
So, now, does anyone have any other comments or questions about this regional town plan? We are asked by September 15th, which would give us time to speak about it at our September meeting again. But we were asked to give our yay or nay to the regional plan. Right, Dustin?
Yeah, there's this form.
Yeah. And in it, I suspect that as far as I'm concerned, from my own point of view, we would express wholehearted approval, with the substantial caveat of where our commercial districts are shown. there won't be any chance for you to update it prior to that, I imagine.
Right.
So, okay. Are you our secretary?
Not at all.
I think if you know,
Okay. Thank you. I was just seeing
it'll
all
be a
this.
scanty
all this-
set of minutes.
A couple secretaries, I'm taking notes too. Okay, so,
I have some comments now if Jocelyn wants to hear
yeah,
them.
sure, that's what she's here.
I really like the way you have started with discussing some of the trends that are shaping the region. And I like the fact that each goal is followed by a section of simply stated policies, followed by very concrete actions that are to be taken and who is to take them. It seems like it's a plan that can be implemented. It's not a plan that's up in the clouds somewhere saying, oh, we wish we could do blah, blah, blah. And so I congratulate you. And I also want to say that having attended most of the focus group sessions that Northwest Hills COG held on the various topics, it's clear to me that what was discussed at those meetings and what was learned at those meetings was incorporated into this. So,
Great.
Yeah, I have been, well, more than half, just emailed back to Jocelyn after I saw this, that we could just copy and paste her plan and call it out.
sure.
And it has a lot that we would want to echo. Any other questions or comments about the regional plan?
I have a question about the past. In the past, obviously in this regional plan, you have the goal of attracting and retaining young residents, which I think is obviously on everybody's mind. Was that even mentioned in any of the past plans? Or did it kind of sneak up on the whole region as saying this is such a priority that we need to make it front and center? I don't recall in the past regional plan that it was emphasized. Obviously now it's coming to the point that we really need to put it in as top notch, and that's what all the surveys in the town said as well. But did you model, in other words, did you kind of start with a clean slate to say,
Yeah, I
This is
did.
where we wanna go from,
The
or-
other plans did not focus on that issue, the previous plans. This is the first plan for all 21 towns, because as you know, we were two separate COGs before.
oh, okay.
But I really took my lead from that resident input survey that we did, and then coming to all of the planning and zoning commissions in each of the towns. And it was interesting that the planning and zoning, not that, I guess maybe it's not interesting, but the planning and zoning commissioners' responses are separate from the other resident survey responses, but they're completely consistent with the overall resident responses. And so I took my lead from that, you know, what was of most interest to the residents, and the number one issue, which has always been reflected also in comments that our chief elected officials make at COG meetings, was attracting and retaining young people. But not very far under that is protecting, you know, natural resources and water quality. So I don't want to undermine that, because we know that
It was a close
that's
second.
very important too. And, you know, we'll continue efforts to work on that as well. But yeah, it wasn't a focus of the other regional plans.
I think also, being a member of the town representative COG, it's on every chief elected official's mind what's going on in the towns. And each one of these towns has a declining population, period. It has a declining, 21 towns, declining population. Litchfield County lost more population than any other county in the tri-state area in the last 4 years, which is interesting because everybody thought we'd come out of the 2008 recession, and this has happened since 2010. So something is happening in Connecticut, something's happening in Litchfield County, something's happening here in Cornwall that people didn't see in the last planning cycle. People nobody thought we'd be talking about merging schools. That's front and center right now. Nobody talked about each town having an economic development committee. That wasn't in our plan. It's front and center on all chief elected official minds. And I brought you some more handouts because there's a lot of good work that's being done to identify the problem, because a lot of people don't think it's a problem because it's not an obvious problem. But Berkshire Economics just put out a report this month called A Closer Look, which ties together a lot of these trends. So I requested copies for your next report for you, and for more copies for people. But it ties together a lot of what's going on in the demographics. And there is a section in there says where they survey a lot of people, and 44% of residents under the age of 40
I need one of those back, please. I'm sorry.
answered yes or maybe to the question if they consider moving out of the area in the next 3 years. I think that's an important idea of what's going on, and you can also look at copy you off also, because a lot of this information isn't getting a lot of press, but it's very important. Here's the demographic for Cornwall 2017, and a couple things in there. You can see last 4 years it says Cornwall lost 100 residents. It corresponds with the decline in school enrollments. You can take it home, read it. You can see our numbers of over 75 are almost double the state average. Numbers under 20, half the state average. You can see that's what's going on. You can also see the occupancy rates of houses is under the state average. So you put this together, another piece, I apologize for this because Joyce was on an ambulance call, so it's all messed up. The copy, tried to put two sides at once unsuccessfully. But here's an article saying, that talks about Litchfield County struggling with population decline. And it's interesting as far as the county's lost 4% of its residents the past 6 years. Of course, Cornwall's numbers are much higher than this, but it lays it out as far as Litchfield County losing more population than any other county in New York, Massachusetts, or Connecticut. So it's obviously not just a Cornwall problem, but it's manifesting itself here. And I think when we talked about the town plan, 8 years ago, the selectmen wrote a letter saying Cornwall's at a crossroads, and I think since then, if you look at some of these numbers, we've actually gone down the wrong road as far as some of these trends. And these are regional, statewide trends. It's not our fault, but it's playing out here more than other places. Cornwall school population declined more than any other school in the county. Something's going on here that is somewhat unique. And it's it. In a small town, numbers will play themselves out, and trends. Cornwall has the biggest brush fires, the best recycling rate, biggest voter turnout. So all is first or last or whatever it is. But we can't have too many more times of losing 100 residents without it having a huge impact on the schools, on the fire departments, everything else. So I would applaud the effort to put, serious work into our young population and looking at jobs and housing, and the opportunities we have in the community to really take that front and center and go with it. These are not new issues, but I think if you start looking at some of the data, it's much more severe than I thought it was even last year. So anyway, thanks Jocelyn for bringing it up, and I think it's not a Republican or Democratic issue. It's not a Torrington or Cornwall issue, but to me, it's the issue at this point. I think we've done fine with open space to the point where our town is so open now because the villages are vacant. So we won that battle. It was a battle we should win, but we have to focus on the demographics, young people, housing, economics, looking what we can do to really rebuild the town. So, anyway, I got off my soapbox. Anyway, there's a lot of good information that's out now, and I just wanted to bring, because I keep on getting bombarded with it, and I think it's just really important.
In the past, we had a resident who would give us these appropriate statistics, but he's one of those who has moved away.
Right. And I'm not as good as he is. Keep on giving me
No, this is great, so thank you for this. You know, of course, those issues are front and center in our awareness as well, and that's, and you know, we have a forum coming up, which will be the start of a process that will allow us to alter our regulations to address some of these issues if the citizens choose to do so. So that forum is coming up in September. This is a good, so we're just emerging into the discussion of that forum. September 23rd, I think we just, you all haven't heard this exactly, but I got an email from the Cornwall Conservation Trust saying that, you know, darn, they've scheduled a big event the morning of that day. And they asked for us to, you know, I tried to reach every single entity I could think of. You know, Tom isn't going to be here, for heaven's sake. I mean, there's some.
Yeah, talk to my wife about that.
No, I wouldn't dare.
She's made plans.
I wouldn't. Are you kidding?
We're away.
Are you kidding? No. But anyway, we contacted many groups to ask about trying to avoid conflicts, and it doesn't sound like it's a substantial or a. It sounded like the Conservation Trust was perfectly happy to have our event in the afternoon, and so some of their members who wanted to attend would be able to do both. So I suggest that our time be 2 o'clock at CCS. I sent out only.
We know people think more clearly in the mornings.
That's a doctor speaking. Evidence
Also, a lot
for
of
it.
people with kids aren't going to be able to be there because the afternoons aren't game afternoons.
I'm
So
so surprised about the switch. I think,
So am I hearing that we should just stay the course, and if they can't come, then
well, I don't
that's
know, I
only
thought,
one group?
I thought the morning was probably good work time, I mean,
And
we couldn't do it. The point is that the other group seized upon the morning before we publicized it.
I'm not positive how flexible they are in changing. I don't know. But I just got an email from Bart Jones asking if we could schedule it in the afternoon because they have this event.
It's an event they're having?
Well, they're having a town cleanup day, I think. And this is the first I heard of that.
Well, it's not like the forum is the only venue for public input that we're ever
Right,
going
it's
to
only the
have
start
when
of
we're
it.
doing this plan CBD.
And it is one group, but there's a lot of people
David,
who would be
excuse me, it's
interested.
not one group,
Oh, no?
because the Cornwall Association got an invitation to participate, and they said that they are asking every organization in town, and they're looking for a contribution of $100 from each organization, and that they would be doing the cleanup for a couple hours, then meeting back here at the library and planting, doing a major planting here after that with food. So, I mean, it's not a one organization event at all.
Well,
Back to the drawing board.
Back to the drawing board.
Can I just ask, I guess what the overall goal is for the forum, because you could, for example, if just to throw out an idea, if the groups are coming back here to have lunch and plant things here, could you have things set up here where people are giving their input in a different way? I often encourage commissions to think about taking your show on the road instead of, because it is so hard. I mean, I've done it before too, try to call people together for this specific thing, and it's just hard to find it's impossible to find a date that works for a lot of people. Like, what works for older people doesn't work for people with kids, doesn't work for weekenders, but you could, I'm just throwing it out there, you could think about, if you could go to the PTO meeting and ask for 20 minutes on their agenda and have ways for people to give you feedback there, and then if all of the folks that are coming here could give you your feedback. Just an idea.
Have a bunch of mini forums.
A forum is, what we're hoping to do is attract as large a variety and wide a net of residents in one place at one time, to focus on the fact of the town plan update and to focus on the impact that can have on the town. So I mean, we can do these other things also, but I think a forum is a helpful thing. But we don't have to, there isn't any, we haven't published this in the newspapers, we haven't, it's not in the Chronicle yet, it's not written in stone. So
Maybe the whole business of cleaning up the town, fit liberally, and then planning for its future would be kind of the same interest, and maybe the same people would be involved with lunch in the middle. I mean, so have people come and do what they can, either picking up stuff or, what were some of the other things, Joanne, that they were going to be doing? Planting.
They plan to plant here at the library.
And what are the other things they were going to have? All other organizations were hoping to participate.
Yeah, for Mark's letter. You had the letter, right?
I didn't bring it with me, but he said, Bart Jones sent out the letter to several different organizations, and he asked us if we would help with this, and would we also contribute $100, and our group agreed to do it. I believe in addition to the planting, it includes walking some of the local streets and doing any cleanup. Not that I see a lot of trash here, except on my road. River Road gets a fair amount of beer cans. That I think was the other thing that they were physically planning.
That's in the morning, yeah,
In the
starting
morning.
at 9 or something.
That's in the morning.
Well, maybe people could do what they could do, depending on the time of day they could come and what was going on. I don't know, it seems as though once you get people rolling to do something cooperative, it's kind of good to keep them keep them going.
although I would just play the devil's advocate and say that some people might be up for a few hours as opposed to
They could choose
a
which
whole
2 hours they
day.
wanted.
So we have
Well, we'll have to think that.
we have some choices here. I think the 16th was fairly.
Why not shift it into October?
It keeps, I wouldn't be able to do it until the second half of October.
Okay.
I've
We
got
do
it.
have 3 years to go.
Yeah, it's true. It could be, and there was a goal of having it in the fall in order to attract as many, to have it up and in the period of time in which there would be a lot of weekenders here as well, so that we have the full-time population and the weekender population. You get into the second half of fall, how many people want to come to
Peak wave season.
how many people want to sit inside?
Oh, come
I'm an outdoors kind of guy, I think, but does anyone else, what do people think about? There's either, in my mind, we could either just keep it the way it is. We could say on 2 o'clock on that date, we could go to the morning on that day and have a conflict, or we could try the 16th of September, or we could go to the second half of October.
Okay. If I may just, with that last plan, and I think the one before that, we also did in advance of doing the forum, reach out to every board and commission
Yeah.
and sent them a letter, and then had a member go to one of their meetings with hopes, as Jocelyn said, that there would be a few minutes to talk about, have you done your letter in response to ours, and can we do it now, what's your feedback? And then you have your annual get-togethers, which all ideas, people give reports on what they've been doing, and ideas come from that. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think it does help. Even at this pick up the trash thing, I thought you could crumple a little thing up and they open it up and look at it and say, what trash, this is the town plan. What's your most important idea? You can put those all around the roads and you put them on the
I like that.
That's good.
But I think the point here is that the more they see other boards and commissions have had ideas and they've been brought together, and here's a synopsis or something of what we've heard so far. What are we missing? How would you change something? You know, what else would you add?
Yeah. You know, one thing we're thinking, at least I was thinking, is that this forum isn't going to be the end of the process. It'll be sort of a big way to get people involved, and that there's going to be we don't have to expect that we're going to have gathered all our information from the townspeople in advance of the forum.
No, you can do it afterwards. You have the forum and do that all afterwards.
Yeah, because all our subcommittees are going to be meeting, and you know.
I was just thinking if you do go an extra month, you could fill that up.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
trying to do this
Yeah.
front running stuff.
Yeah, because that's also another way to get more people to come.
Mm-hmm.
If you go,
Well-
if you reach out to all those other
Yeah,
boards.
build up to it that way.
Procrastination is tempting.
Well, I think it would really not be good for us to do a forum and competition with this, which is reaching out to various organizations and asking them to be involved, and then for us to say, we're having this forum.
All right,
I
so
agree.
let's go back to the drawing board and find a date in October.
Why don't you just do it after they finish their event? You've already got people's, why don't you do it the same day you're planning to do it, and do it after they do their event, and just tell people they can go to the school. The other thing you should realize is that all these events pre-select who participates, because people, especially the demographic I've been talking about, the 20 to 40-year-old kids, probably can't come on Saturday. So if we're wedded to get Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, you're probably not going to get a lot of people. So the limitation of public forums is you tend to get older people to the forums, and there are people that are very important to the town that we're trying to attract, probably are busy doing a lot of different stuff as far as making a living. A lot of people work on Saturdays. So there's limitations on that, but I like the idea if there is some sort of civic activity, why not just, realize you're not going to get everybody on a certain day, especially if it's a Saturday. My own thing is when we do town meetings, we often do Friday nights. And granted, that's a little bit different because they're generally shorter than a big, whatever you're doing for a couple hours. But you do have this reality that more and more people are working on Saturdays or have their weekends jammed up. They're not, the only free time they have is like a weekday night, and weekend is Friday. So my 2 cents would go with the flow and do it afterwards at the school, and realize it's not gonna be the end of the discussion, but it's a good place to start.
So
Because we had a big event at the school a couple of years ago, Explore Cornwall on Columbus Day weekend, and everybody was out enjoying the weekend. I mean, it's a hard thing to come inside and sit there, and
it's,
it's a lot to ask.
so the arguments counter to that are a couple people voiced preference for a morning, just in terms of people's alertness. And then also, I do think there are more people who would say, I'm not gonna go to 2 events on the same day, than there are people who would say, I wasn't gonna go, but because there are 2 events, I'm gonna go. So, you know, it's,
You gotta point those people to committees.
yeah, I just think that's a smaller group. So, I don't know, anyone else think?
Why don't we struggle with this by email between now and our next meeting?
Yeah, well, that'll be discussed, no, if that happens by email, that'll mean it's not gonna happen in September, because the announcement would have to be in the Chronicle.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I wasn't
It'll
knowing
be-
how close September
Why don't
is.
you have 2 meetings? A night
Boy.
meeting and a day meeting. And the people who are working nights will come to the day meeting, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you don't have to have 1 meeting, you could have 2. You could have 3.
But the forum is a good, I've been at the, perhaps others of you are more
I
at the
thought
last.
this was an informational meeting for people in town.
It's partly that, but it's partly to see who shows up, who wants to be helpful on subcommittee. You know, it's nice to have a large event that would draw, let's say, 50 people, instead of splitting it into 2 events that would draw 30, I think.
I don't think we're gonna solve it right now with all these
Except if we
people that are
don't,
all of different ideas.
except if we do not approve to have it on September 23rd or 16th at this meeting, then it's not gonna happen in September. And that would be okay.
There's a couple of reasons maybe to push it back in October. And one is it might be a more efficient forum that we can, as some people pointed out, reach out to some of the other committees in town and get their input so we have a starting place to work from. Then when we get up in front of the forum, we actually have a list of, okay, here's some inputs already, it's kind of a baseline. Also, maybe Tom McGowan would be available, which I think
I'm here in October.
What?
I'm here in October.
See that?
Oh, I thought,
Okay.
so you had a real excuse, I wasn't sure.
And that's not to say that we can't still do something in the afternoon with the Conservation Committee and get some input at that level and
Yeah,
still utilize that. But then to have your big forum that I think is a good idea to try to attract as many people, get them in one room and actually see so that other people can see what everybody else's views are, and really try to get a town-wide input. I think that would work better. Right.
I like how
I
James
concur.
often pulls things together like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, everybody sort of agree?
Yeah,
I think so.
About Tom, actually.
it's really about time.
We'll have to, so we'll do that coordination with all the groups again and come up with our proposal of dates via email so that at our September
It's far
meeting-
enough ahead
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you don't have to worry whether
Okay.
we have.
And some of us can go to the Conservation Trust event
Yeah,
and talk about the
yeah.
forum that's coming.
Yep, okay. So that's, I don't know if we need a motion for that, but that's our consensus, so.
Yeah, and also maybe go to meetings of other town boards and committees and talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, so having established that, and having both Jocelyn and Tom here now, I wanted to ask both of you for any, and Gordon here too, and anyone else, but for any suggestions you would have about the forum. I know Tom has offered one already, and Jocelyn also to go to these, have members of our commission possibly go to meetings of other groups and spread the word.
I'd love to have somebody come on the day of the Ag Fair, which I believe is September 7th, 9th, is also right here at 3:30. The annual Cornwall Association sponsors a newcomers tea. And this year, in conjunction with the 30th anniversary of the Cornwall Conservation Group, Bart is going to be our speaker. But I'd be happy if one of you wants to come. I'd introduce you to give a 2-minute spiel about planning to come to the forum. We try to get long-term residents there, but we send a personal invitation to each family or person that has purchased a home within the last 12 months. And we usually get about an 80% attendance of those new people.
Perfect.
So that would be a good place to present this idea. Because I think most of our newcomers, even if they are weekenders, love the idea that Cornwall is something they can become a part of.
So could you tell us again, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about something else. So this is specifically the newcomers?
This is specifically the newcomers tea. It is on Saturday afternoon at 3:30, September 9th, which is the day of the Ag Fair. And so it's after that at 3:30 here. And we also serve refreshments following. Last year we did it in conjunction with the anniversary of the Cornwall Chronicle. Some of you may remember that, because I see most of you were here for that. So we try to make it special, and we try to have ideas that these newcomers, that we can persuade them to become active residents, not just passive.
Oh, great. Because it's,
I usually go, I mean, you meet people, I mean,
It's,
yeah.
I can't go
It's
to
good.
that day. So. Okay, great. So,
Whichever one of you wants to be the one,
No,
when
we
you
could
see
just
me
have a
that day,
couple.
will be you,
It
Ginny?
might be Anna.
Okay.
Anna just volunteered as she does for so many things. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Jocelyn or Tom, any on the topic just of the handling of the forum? Well, maybe I should sketch out again what I imagine would happen, and then so there would be, we would all meet as a group, whoever is there at the beginning. And there'd be a few speakers at the start, but only a few. It wouldn't be every entity in town the way it is at our January meeting. And I imagine I would speak, and I think you offered perhaps to speak to give, is up for, for talking about, someone ought to talk to give it a sense of the demographic trends, and maybe Gordon would be happy to as well. But we'll have a few speakers who will speak briefly with an overview. I will want to highlight, I will have in my hand our task list that was created after our last town plan, which literally has like 60 items on it. And of those 60, I've got to say, 40 of them are handled, so it's a lot. And I want to highlight some of the larger items that were handled, so as a way to show people that town plans make a difference. So I will give a little education to the public about the value of town plans. And for all of you here, in case you don't know, very briefly, I mean, it is so brief, but it makes sense, that if you're thinking of any major change in the regulations, the best place for it to appear as a recommendation first is the town plan. Because when you go to public hearing for a fleshed out change in the regulations, if it's recommended in the town plan, it gives you a lot of support. And if it isn't recommended in the town plan, you're out on a little bit. So some of what we have accomplished is because it was in the last town plan. That will be my speech, and there'll be these few little speeches, and then we're going to break up into the 4 groups that are traditional in town plans: the economic development, housing, natural resources, and community resources. We were undecided if we're going to have each of those groups be in one corner of the gym, or if each of those groups will be in their own room in the school. That's up for grabs now. And then afterwards, we'll probably have a recap where the members of P&Z, who are the co-chairs of each of those groups, might give a little talk about what happened in the last hour there. And that would be the start of the town plan. That's not at all the end. After that, and I'll explain this to everybody, that after that you really establish the subcommittees and you ask for volunteers from the community. You are careful in who you select to be on subcommittees because you want a representative group from the population. You don't want it skewed one way. And you don't want it too huge, that becomes unmanageable. So that becomes the start of the process, and in my experience, the real work in crafting a town plan happens after that forum. So that's the speech I'm planning to give. Do either of you have anything to add to questions or comments? Or anyone else?
Justin knows more of this than me now, which wouldn't be too hard. Go ahead.
So do people self-select which of the 4 groups that they go
At
to?
that forum.
At that forum.
Yeah.
One of the ideas I have, which you might not like at all, and I understand, one of the things I was thinking when I was looking back through your plan this morning and thinking about the different groups and who was on them and maybe who wasn't on them, and thinking about plan implementation, for example, if there's a housing initiative, who's going to take it on? And when I think about that in Cornwall, I think about the Cornwall Housing Corporation.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I mean, obviously you do, and you did then have representatives from the Cornwall Housing Corporation, but why, I guess, so one idea is at the beginning of the housing forum, because there might be people interested in housing who self-select and go to the housing group, they don't even know that the Cornwall Housing Corporation exists. They don't know that you have affordable housing in Cornwall. They don't know that you have regulations for accessory apartments. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea when you split out. I totally get it that you don't want to do you don't want to talk to people for an hour at the beginning of the meeting, but maybe when you separate out into the groups, you could have Maggie talk about, not a long presentation, but here's how many affordable housing units we have in town,
That sounds great
and
to me.
have Bart talking about how many acres of Cornwall are preserved, and have Janet talk about what the Economic Development Committee has been working on and what they think and not that what that person says is then, or that person doesn't have to like lead the whole discussion, but I always feel like giving people a little bit of, because it's also a forum for everybody to learn what is happening in those areas, because if everybody says, oh, well, we should have accessory apartments, but you already have that, you know, you are, or, I don't know, I'm just,
Yeah, no,
you know.
It is. Yeah.
And I definitely think in terms of the subcommittees, and you probably are already thinking this too, I mean, you definitely want to have heavy, or at least a good representation from Cornwall Housing Corp on your housing subcommittee and the Economic Development Commission on your, which didn't exist back in the.
Right. It was a recommendation in our last plan.
Right. So I guess that was a
Well,
thought.
thank you. That's a good one.
I'm thinking we ought to have a fifth subcommittee. We
Yeah.
had this discussion before, attract and retain
Yeah.
young people. Each of the other subjects are folded into all of that. We can't attract and retain without economic development. But I think it's such an important subject, we should have a separate subject.
I like that idea, because I was thinking too, I mean, again, I struggled with that when I put the plan together, that when you separate the issues, like the people who care about housing go to the housing thing, the people that care about, you know, supporting small businesses go to economic development, but, so some people, what's the word? Yeah, it encompasses all of those issues.
Our youngest P&Z commission member has expressly said that he would like to be very involved in those discussions and be a subcommittee chair for that.
He's up for being a chair.
Right?
Okay, great.
I thought I'd do it.
Oh, great. And
I think it would make the process much more relevant and current. If that's a big issue facing the town, not to have that as a group would seem like
Silly.
it's just an exercise as opposed to a reality-based program. And I have in my office a Summer Dean Zaccardi, who you may have read about in the Chronicle, who's doing a report on this very subject
That's right.
about what is a young, because the group you won't get, you get a lot of people that are, if you look at the demographics, you can get a lot of people over 75, but you're not going to get people in the process that are under 25. And that's frankly the future of the town. It's not me. I'm not in that demographic. It's the people under 25. And what should the town be doing to keep that demographic in town? That's the issue facing us right now. And I think we should have that. And I think Dean would give a brief presentation at the start about what he's found out over the last several months as far as the challenges and opportunities of being young in this region.
Yeah.
You know, in thinking about this and listening to Gordon, I mean, the town plan now under statute has to be reviewed and accepted by the Board of Selectmen before you can vote on it. And they have a chance to say whether they feel something's missing or whatever. And if the Board of Selectmen and Gordon feel, as I assume they do, that the little talk that Gordon gave, which was done very well and very briefly, about what the issue is with young people and the problem with the young people not coming in and the old people staying and so forth. It should be one of those talks at the beginning. Maybe along with Dean, who's a young person that could say something about it. I mean, if it's that important, and you know it's that important, and the selectmen feel it's that important, why not say, here's kind of where we think we're going to start as one of the, if not the most important thing, and Gordon would like to speak, and Dean would like to.
yeah, I imagined, I agree. I mean, I expect that will happen.
I mean, if everybody wants to disagree with you, then they can. That's what the forum's all about. The other thing is that mechanically, I'm worried that if you break out into 5 or 6 groups, whatever it is, and people can select which one they want to go to, you might get a mass movement to one section and have 3 people at 2 others. And you're not going to get the thing, of course, the way we did it last time, went every other chair, and then you went into one room if you were chair one, and you went to the second room if you were chair 2, 3, 4, whatever, depending on how many people you get. And then everybody goes in and has a chance to say whatever they've got to say. Usually people want to say what they have in their mind. They come in with their hair. Usually they have something they want to say. And of course, if it's all about housing, like, we're going to go over to housing. Even though they may have things to say about other things as well. I don't know, I'm just,
I didn't quite follow that.
you're certainly not going to get an equal number of people in each group. We know that.
I mean,
What
have
I'm worried about is it gets disproportionately allocated, and you don't have.
Yeah, so you're saying don't self-select at this forum.
Is
Do
that
it
what
sort
you're
of
saying?
arbitrary.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
say
Oh.
the first 10 people, count off, you go
Oh,
with so-and-so.
okay.
The second 10, go with so-and-so.
Or every one person, every other
Whatever.
person.
Yeah,
because
something
I
along
might- I
One,
might
two,
go to
three,
different
four,
places.
5. 1, 2, 3,
Otherwise,
4,
they're
5.
arguing with each other.
Because they might have been sitting side by side, because they agreed
There
on
you
it.
go. There you go.
Right.
We want a diversity of ideas. We don't want everybody
Whatever they
thinking
want.
the same
Right.
way in each group.
Right.
But
That's
but if they're prepared, going into the groups, Jocelyn was saying, how do we do that? And did you say that you had to have at each group then, well, let's talk about housing for a while, let's talk this for a while. No, we didn't do that. But in the introduction, you're gonna do the outline of what a town plan is and how it works and what has been done in the past. Gordon's, perhaps if he agrees, gonna do his thing, and Dean, and I don't know if everyone else. But you also are hopefully going to have by that time in October some feedback from the boards and commissions and the other groups that one of you has attended at the agricultural fair and so forth and so on. So that could be on one sheet summarized if you can do that. And that would be handed out to everybody at the beginning. Hey, here are the things people are telling us from boards, commissions, and various events that have happened over the last month or so. And then they can, oh, well, okay.
It's a starting
This is
point.
my big one right here.
Mhm.
And then they can go into whatever group they can go into, say what they have to say. rather than break
I'd like to suggest too, that you get a facilitator for each one of your groups, somebody probably on your commission, but not necessarily, so that they have an opportunity ahead of this event to look at what is an existing plan as far as what's in your regulation and what's been going on, so not everybody there is just trying to figure it out from the start,
Yeah,
so
we
you are
would
going to
assume-
get somebody.
We would assume that each of us will be assigned or will volunteer. A month ago, I was given absolute authority, but I don't know if that would, how long that lasts.
It's
To,
already over.
I thought so. To assign people to subcommittees, but I know, I agree, we're gonna have, like, well ahead of time, we're gonna establish who's going to be on which subcommittee. Since it's been put off a month, I can put off that too. I had done it, but I didn't have the information about Ben Jr. and the young people group and all that, so this will involve a little shifting. Those are great and helpful points. We need these points because this year we're sort of doing it as more of a volunteer effort than in past years. Tom is going to still consult, but as you aren't wanting to do the same effort as in the past on this, but you'll be helpful as you are now, and that will be appreciated.
I can't conceive of the fact that some towns just hire a consultant who does it all for them.
Well, anyway.
That's
Well, they're all doing this vision plan thing now. They're holding these interactive forum sessions at the start of a plan.
Yeah.
But they do the groundwork and prepare the materials in advance and have all the charts
So
and
it
boards
is,
and
yeah, so
magic
they are,
markers- magic
the
markers are
consultant is reaching out to the people in the town.
They
They're not
have
just
to do that
making the
now.
whole
They
thing
have
up.
to do that now. That's the
Oh,
way
yeah.
plans are done.
Okay.
But we have all these active groups already, in almost every area, so that they're able to, have input. Does anyone else here or have any, so far at this meeting, we've been having a broad brush discussion of the town plan. We're update forum. And unless someone else wants to say something else on that topic, we can move on to other planning topics since we have Tom here. Jocelyn, you don't have to stay if you don't want to now, but
We'd like her to stay. We usually do.
I've got my
here, here.
pie waiting for me.
it's, is that okay with everyone to move on to some specific planning issues if we have them? So first of all, does the Economic Development Subcommittee have anything that should be brought up at this point?
We have had a meeting. We finalized a draft of a new section for our zoning regulations that will deal with farming regulations. It's one of your goals to create model regs, and I think Cornwall is going to do it for you. Right? We've sent them to Tom and to Karen. I'll resend it, Tom. I see that your face just very recently. Very, very recently.
Yeah, I thought I could open it here so I could go over it with you, but there's no connection, so.
Yeah, we have no internet here.
Yeah.
So
I don't have a copy of
we
it.
wanted because it's all, there's some dramatic changes. We wanted your advice and Karen's advice before we even brought it as a whole to all the other commission members.
Great.
Well, I apologize, I guess I should have had that done ahead of time. but I didn't.
No, because I really only just sent it to you. I wasn't expecting you.
No, these things take time.
But it's exciting, I
That's some
think,
progress.
what we've done,
Yeah.
what we've put together.
Good.
And, okay, so maybe at our next meeting, there'll be
Sure.
some feedback from
Mhm.
Tom and Karen and, I don't know, Jocelyn, if you want to see it. We'll just abuse,
Why don't we finish it before we send it to you? Because we're
we'll
very,
just abuse on your hospitality as much as we can.
Sounds good.
And Karen's done some work on it already.
Okay. All right, great. Tom, do you have any, this doesn't have to be spoken about at this meeting if you aren't ready, but, I emailed Tom as the commission authorized me to think about what impact dropping the owner-occupied portion of our regulations would have for both the housing and the small business, like both for accessory apartments and multiple family dwellings. At the moment, our regs say if you're going to convert a large whole building into multiple apartments, not that there's been a great rush to do so, but at the moment, one of the apartments has to be owner-occupied. So we were going to ask Tom if he saw upsides or downsides to dropping the owner-occupied part of that. And similarly with the home-based businesses, there has to be an owner-occupied.
No, I don't read it that way.
You don't read how it
Not
breaks
on the
down?
home occupation, there's 4 categories of home enterprise type things. Traditional home occupation, general, shopping storage, and major home occupation. And
Yeah.
only the major one is limited to the resident owner. All the rest of them say the resident family. So you don't have an owner requirement now for that category. It's different with accessory apartments. That is owner.
So, well,
So it's very liberal already, isn't it? I mean, that's not common.
Well, there's a general,
You ever studied that?
I haven't.
Oh, no.
Well,
But on the accessory apartment and breaking up a home into a group of apartments, that's certainly not traditional. I mean, it opens up to speculators, in other words, is what you're doing. You're saying someone would own a place and rent it out, both the apartment and the house. So that would be an investor,
It's
I
a
would
different
think.
way of creating multifamily housing. Right?
Well, I think realistically in Cornwall, the accessory apartment is the more common by far option. The option of creating, I think it's up to 3 units in an older home.
or 4
Right.
or something, yeah.
It has to be of a certain age and so forth. I don't know, I'm intuitively reluctant to recommend that you drop the ownership element of an accessory apartment. I have to think a little further about the multifamily. That certainly is a way that you could get some of these big houses and get some apartment units out of them. They're so, maybe so large and not attractive to the marketplace as a single-family residence. Of course, none of that has happened yet.
Some people have,
Maybe give it a try and see how it works.
I'm not sure, yeah, I'm not sure how, that there'd be a great rush of application. Some architects have pointed out to me that it's more expensive to build apartments in an old,
Retrofit is very
Yeah.
bad.
than building from scratch. So I'm not sure how much it would happen anyway. In the business our regs say all, general standards for home use. All home usage shall be clearly secondary to the use of the premises as a residence.
Mhm.
And the can of worms I'm wondering about, very innocently perhaps, is that suppose, just for example, someone wanted to do a office type business in a residential zone. Let's say the proverbial, internet startup. But they didn't want to have their primary residence in Cornwall. I'm just wondering what a downside would be to trying to craft a regulation that would allow that to happen.
Well, that would be your major home occupation, or wherever it is, the major home occupation. And that is the one that requires you to be a resident owner. So you're saying drop the resident, but keep the owner. The owner operates.
I don't have it all fleshed out.
Yes, no, I recommended this in Litchfield at one point. I mean, there was a fellow who wanted to move up out of Waterbury, loved Litchfield, going to buy a big place with 40 acres and had like 50 people that were going to come in and work, and he felt he had tons of land to isolate the activity. Of course, there'd be traffic on the road, because it was a side road, and then you're always going to hear from neighbors about that, the traffic. But your major home occupation has limits, I think, in it that wouldn't allow something of that size. And for you to drop the residence requirement, I think that's possible. We'd have to relook the regulations.
Yeah,
see
so
if
that's
we
what
change something else. Yeah.
That's what we're thinking. We're wanting to just explore in a very general, preliminary way to see the upsides and the
Well,
downsides.
that's the ideal activity, this computer-based
Right, and what kind of
Russian hackers.
limit, only hackers.
But if somebody wanted to, there used to be a doctor's office, there used to be several doctor's offices, there used to be historically a doctor's office opposite the town hall, and if somebody wanted to redo that big house into a doctor's office, is that possible? It provides employment, it provides services to the town, and right now, it's physical therapy, you've got to leave town. So if somebody wanted to establish a physical therapy thing, or there's a bunch of different uses that one could think of that wouldn't have a smokestack, like a maple syrup house, but it would, there may be people coming, but in this age of reduced traffic and residency anyway, I don't see the problem. Maybe there is a problem, but if somebody there are people that come to me all the time that want to establish a business in Cornwall of some type, but because of geography, because of the geometry, because of the reduced places that are available, there are low-impact businesses, lathes established, pottery up at the old chicken Hobbs farm. That's probably less impact than the turkeys used to be. But it's going to be a neat thing. She's hiring local people to help her fix it up. She's going to have a business there, all that good stuff. A couple of people, employees, maybe. What's the problem?
Exactly. So I don't think this evening is the place for us to settle this, but that's what we're hoping to ask Tom to mull over and come back to us with some thoughts. If you've had a chance to think about it a little more.
Okay.
The whole idea of improving our regulations to allow for an expanded vision of home-based businesses, which are what is happening all over the place. People working from home. My daughter works for the state of New York, for the Department of Parks. She works from home the majority of the time. Because of the nature of the work that she does for them. So I think it would be important for us to include a goal of making sure that our regulations allow people to expand into those kinds of situations.
In other words, start to have employees.
Yeah.
Whatever. I just think if we want more economic opportunities in Cornwall, we have to get out of old-fashioned definitions like major home business.
Yeah, so
We have to think more creatively about what the young people of today actually want and
exactly.
expect.
So that's the idea, to see the pros and cons of opening. But let's not spend a lot of, if it's okay with everyone. So Tom, you don't have to worry about this now.
I already worried about it.
He's already into it.
Look, if you're
Okay, no,
if you're planning to go on holiday, you can easily bring that
Right.
along. You'll have plenty of time. Okay, so we had skipped. So now we're going to go back to our regular agenda.
Bye, Jocelyn.
Thank you. Well, you don't have to stay for this, everybody, but if you want to, feel free. So first on the agenda is, we can't really handle too effectively item 1, application for zoning permits, because Karen is the one who speaks to those, and she isn't here. So approval of minutes. July 11th, regular meeting. We have a quorum here to approve. Yep. Can I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. New applications, none. This is just highlighting the problems we have in Cornwall. Pending applications, none. Correspondence and communications received. We covered some of that. I think we'll want to make note of Gordon's handouts.
Yeah, great.
Great. I'm not aware of any other, Jocelyn's, what she emailed with the, I don't know if that was since the last town plan. So we ought, the last meeting. So we ought to be sure that Karen has Jocelyn's regional plan communications under correspondence and communications received. Maybe that's about it, right? That?
I'd like to revise the flyer.
Yeah.
To bring it up.
Okay, yes, so, since we now have another month to get in the Chronicle, but thank you. It might help to, people here haven't had a chance to look at it, but I think I'll send out an email to our commission asking for people to express any feedback about the flyer. I just sent the email a few hours ago, so you couldn't look at it, except if you're on the internet. And because I think if we can get behind it, which I don't see any reason why we can't, we'll have to get the new dates. As soon as we have the dates, then it might be better to have that to print out and start handing out prior to our next meeting. But I have, we have to get the date first. So email commission forum in October and okay, and we don't have, I don't think anything on item pump 6 or pump 7. Anything else that anyone want
We usually ask Priscilla to give us an update on what the Economic Development Commission is doing.
Update on economic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you the one who asked that question?
I'm the one that is the liaison,
Okay.
and we don't have a meeting in the summer, the next summer. Usually, I'm the one that goes back to them with what's happened here.
Okay.
And usually our meeting is that morning. And then I come here, and so I'm a month late with them. But they had no August meeting scheduled, so I have no new information to bring to you. Sorry.
Okay. And I will also email everyone in advance of the next meeting a proposed slate of subcommittees for the forum and for each of us. And it'll be very flexible, so but you'll be able to think about that ahead of time. Subcommittee slots. I had it ready for today, but I can't pull it up on my computer just as well because it's now changed slightly with this new subcommittee. Okay, so can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, everybody. I didn't think we'd be through.